First contact in the void. The alert came during the graveyard shift at Saturn Outpost 7. Dr. Sarah Chen was reviewing protein synthesis data when her screen flashed crimson, accompanied by a soft but insistent chime. She blinked, wondering if her eyes were playing tricks after 16 hours of staring at microscopic structures. They weren't. The deep space sensors had detected something massive. No, multiple massive objects, decelerating from FTL speeds on the far side of Saturn's rings. Her hands trembled as she initiated the first contact protocols she had helped design but never expected to use. "Lieutenant Patel," she called out, keeping her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Please verify reading cluster Theta 7. Arun Patel's fingers danced across his console. "Confirmed, Doctor. I'm tracking 15 objects, each approximately 3 kilometers in length. They're bleeding off speed, but their deceleration pattern is erratic." Sarah nodded, already composing her emergency broadcast to Earth Command. After decades of searching the stars for signs of intelligent life, first contact was about to happen in humanity's backyard. But something felt wrong. The approaching ship's movement patterns suggested distress rather than deliberate navigation. "Launch our long-range probes," she ordered. "Full spectrum analysis, and get me a direct line to Admiral Santos." Within minutes, the probe's data began streaming in. The vessels were clearly artificial. Their symmetrical design and material composition couldn't have occurred naturally, but their power signatures were fluctuating wildly, and radiation readings suggested their hulls were deteriorating. "Dr. Chen." Admiral Santos's hologram materialized in the command center. "Your preliminary report said this might be an emergency situation." "Yes, Admiral. These ships appear to be in serious trouble. Their power cores are destabilizing, and their hull integrity is failing. If these readings are accurate, we're looking at potential catastrophic failures within 72 hours. The Admiral's expression remained neutral, but Sarah noticed his shoulders tense. "Have they attempted communication?" "Not yet, but..." She was interrupted by Lieutenant Patel. "Doctor, we're receiving a transmission. It's like nothing I've ever seen. The complexity of the data structure is incredible." Sarah rushed to his station. The incoming signal was indeed unlike anything in their first contact protocols. It contained layers upon layers of information, mathematical sequences, atomic structures, and what appeared to be emergency beacon patterns found throughout Earth's maritime history. "They're not just saying hello," she breathed. "They're asking for help." Admiral Santos leaned forward. "Can you respond?" "Yes, but we'll need to simplify our message. Their communication technology is far more advanced than ours, but they're clearly trying to speak our language." Sarah began composing a response using basic mathematical sequences and universal constants. "Dr. Chen," the Admiral's voice was grave. "You understand what this means. If we attempt a rescue operation, we'll be revealing not just our presence, but the full extent of our technological capabilities to an unknown species." Sarah looked up from her work. "With all due respect, Admiral, they're already here. And they're dying. Whatever brought them to our solar system, whatever they're running from, they chose to ask us for help. That has to mean something." The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. "You have full authorization to proceed with first contact, Dr. Chen. I'm dispatching the emergency response fleet from Mars Station. The UNSS Endeavour will be your command vessel. She's the fastest ship we have. Whatever resources you need, they're yours." As Sarah began coordinating with the rescue fleet, more data poured in from the probes. The alien vessels were masterpieces of engineering, or at least they had been. Now their quantum matrices were collapsing, their navigation systems were offline, and their life support was failing. Conservative estimates suggested they carried at least 100,000 souls. "Lieutenant Patel, prepare for emergency protocols," she ordered. "We're going to need every engineer, physicist, and xenobiologist in the system. And get me everything we have on quantum field manipulation. I have a feeling we're about to get a crash course in technologies we've only dreamed about." The next few hours were a blur of activity. The Endeavour arrived with its support fleet, carrying Earth's brightest minds and best equipment. As they approached the alien vessels, Sarah stood at the command center's viewport, watching the massive ships grow larger. Their designs were organic, almost crystalline, with surfaces that seemed to ripple despite their obvious deterioration. "Beautiful," she whispered. Then her console chimed. The aliens had received and decoded their response. The message they sent back was simple enough for everyone to understand. "Help us, please." Sarah touched the viewport's cold surface. In all her years of studying potential alien life, she had never imagined first contact would happen like this. But perhaps it was fitting. Throughout human history, some of the strongest bonds had been forged in moments of crisis and compassion. "Send this message," she told Lieutenant Pottle. "To our friends among the stars. We are coming. You are not alone." As the rescue fleet moved into position, Sarah Chen prepared to make history. Not as the xenobiologist who made first contact, but as one of many humans about to demonstrate that sometimes the greatest measure of a civilization isn't its technology, but its willingness to help those in need. The real work was just beginning, and they had less than 72 hours to save 100,000 alien lives. But looking at the determined faces around her, Sarah knew that if anyone could do the impossible, it would be humanity, not because they had to, but because they chose to. After all, that's what humans do best. Defy the impossible for the sake of others. The price of pride. The first boarding party stood before the alien airlock, their environmental suits gleaming under emergency lighting. Dr. Sarah Chen watched through their helmet cameras as crystalline patterns rippled across the massive door. A biological security scanner, she realized. After several tense moments, the door dissolved into liquid metal, revealing the ship's interior. "Atmospheric analysis coming in," Lieutenant Patel's voice crackled through the comm. "Nitrogen-oxygen mix, slightly higher pressure than Earth standard. Trace elements, nothing immediately toxic to humans." The team moved forward, led by Chief Engineer Marcus Wong. His breath caught audibly as they entered what appeared to be a grand atrium. Despite the emergency lighting, the architecture was breathtaking. Sweeping curves of living metal that seemed to defy gravity, surfaces that shimmered with stored information. "Stay focused," Sarah reminded them. "We're here to save lives, not admire the decor." They found the first aliens in what appeared to be a control center. Tall, elegantly proportioned beings with iridescent skin and four-fingered hands. Their movements were precise, almost mechanical, as they worked at control interfaces that responded to thought as much as touch. The alien's leader stepped forward. Unlike the others, whose skin showed hints of blue and green, this one's epidermis rippled with patterns of gold and silver. A translation device on their chest activated, converting their harmonics into rough English. "I am first speaker Zorax." The alien's words emerged in a melodic cadence. "We appreciate your swift response to our distress signal. However, I fear you may have overestimated your ability to assist us." Sarah felt a flash of frustration, but kept her voice diplomatic. "With respect, first speaker, we'd like to try. Our sensors indicate your quantum matrices are failing. The radiation from those failures will reach lethal levels within 60 hours. Zorax's skin darkened slightly. "We are aware, but your species has barely mastered nuclear fission. Our ships operate on principles your scientists haven't even theorized yet. How could you possibly help?" "By thinking differently." Marcus stepped forward, his engineer's mind already racing. "Sometimes the simplest solutions work where complex ones fail. Would you allow us to at least examine your systems?" The aliens conferred in rapid bursts of color and sound. Finally, Zorax turned back to them. "We will permit a preliminary assessment, but understand, our technology is not merely advanced, it is sacred. The Axiom Knights spent millennia developing these systems, and now those systems are failing." Sarah pointed out gently. "First speaker, my people have a saying, pride goes before a fall. Please, let us help before it's too late." The next few hours were a crash course in impossibly advanced technology. The alien ships didn't just use quantum mechanics, they manipulated the fundamental forces of reality. Their hull material was a crystalline matrix that could alter its own atomic structure. Their computers operated on principles that made quantum computing look primitive. But they were dying. The quantum matrices that powered everything were destabilizing, creating cascading failures throughout all systems. Worse, the aliens' own repair technologies required power from those same failing matrices to function. "It's like having a toolbox that only works if you already have working tools," Marcus muttered, studying readouts. "They've designed themselves into a corner." Sarah watched as more aliens emerged from their quarters. Scientists, engineers, families with children. Despite their advanced evolution, their fear was painfully familiar. A young alien child clutched what was clearly a comfort object, its skin pale with distress. "First speaker," she called out. "How many civilians are aboard your fleet?" Zorax's patterns shifted to darker hues. 112,417. "We carry the last survivors of 3 star systems. The quantum plague that destroyed our worlds. We thought we had outrun it. But it seems the contamination followed us." Quantum plague. Sarah's blood ran cold. "You mean this isn't just a mechanical failure?" "No. It is a weapon, developed by those who invite our advancement. It corrupts quantum fields, turning our own technology against us. We fled, hoping to find sanctuary among the stars. Instead, we'd brought death to your doorstep." Zorax's skin was almost black now. "You should leave us. The contamination could spread to your vessels." Marcus, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly straightened. "No, it won't. Because our ships don't use quantum fields. We're too primitive, remember?" He turned to Sarah, excitement in his voice. "That's it. That's why we can help them. Because we're behind them technologically. We're immune to what's killing them." Sarah understood immediately. "We don't need to fix their quantum technology. We just need to keep them alive long enough to develop a cure." She faced Zorax. "First speaker, we may not understand your quantum matrices, but we do understand survival. Let us try it our way." The alien leader studied them silently, their skin slowly lightening. Finally, they spoke. "My people's pride has already cost us 3 worlds. I will not let it cost us what remains." They turned to their staff, patterns rippling. "Give them full access to all systems. Hold nothing back." As the humans began their work, Sarah caught Marcus grinning behind his faceplate. "What's so funny? Just thinking. All that advanced technology, and what might save them is good old-fashioned human stubbornness and some basic engineering. Kind of poetic, isn't it?" Sarah watched as human and alien engineers began working side by side, barriers of pride and prejudice falling away in the face of necessity. Poetic indeed. Now let's hope we can write a happy ending. Time was running out. But as she looked at the determination on both human and alien faces, Sarah felt a surge of hope. Sometimes, the greatest innovations came not from advancing forward, but from remembering where you came from. And humans had never forgotten their roots as survivors who thrived on making the impossible possible. They had 58 hours left to prove it. Engineering the impossible. It's not elegant, but it might just work. Marcus Wong stood before a holographic display showing his proposed solution. The combined human-alien engineering team studied the surprisingly simple design with expressions ranging from skepticism to desperate hope. The plan was audacious in its simplicity. Bypass the aliens' failing quantum systems entirely and power their life support with modified human technology. It was like jumping a spaceship with a car battery. Crude, potentially dangerous, but possible. The radiation shielding is the primary concern, Dr. Sarah Chen pointed out, highlighting critical sections of the alien vessels. Even if we get the life support running, we need to protect them from their own degrading quantum matrices. First speaker Zorax's skin rippled with concern. Our shields require quantum coherence to function. Without it, "We don't use your shields," Marcus interrupted, pulling up schematics of human radiation protection systems. "We use layers of physical materials, ceramics, metals, metamaterials, old school, but effective, and immune to quantum corruption." Sarah watched understanding dawn in the aliens' color-shifting skin. Their technology was failing precisely because it was too advanced, too interconnected. Human solutions, developed before quantum manipulation was possible, might be their salvation. The UNSS Endeavour carries enough raw materials to shield one ship, Lieutenant Paddle reported from his station. "But there are 15 vessels. Then we'll strip every human ship in the system," Sarah declared. "Call in the mining vessels from the Jupiter colonies. Have them bring everything they've got." The next hours were a blur of activity. Human ships arrived from across the solar system, carrying materials and personnel. Mining craft began tearing apart asteroids for raw materials. Inside the alien vessels, mixed teams of human and alien engineers worked to integrate vastly different technologies. Marcus led the effort to create a power distribution system that could support alien life support without relying on quantum technology. "It's like trying to power a quantum computer with a steam engine," he muttered, hands deep in a tangle of cables. But sometimes steam engines are exactly what you need. The alien engineers, initially reluctant to work with such primitive technology, began to show genuine interest in human ingenuity. They were particularly fascinated by humanity's knack for finding unexpected solutions to seemingly impossible problems. "Your species approaches problems differently," an alien engineer named Vex observed, their skin shimmering with curious patterns. "Where we seek to advance technology, you seek to understand its fundamental nature. There is wisdom in this approach." Sarah, overseeing the installation of radiation shielding on the fleet's primary vessel, smiled behind her helmet. "Necessity is the mother of invention. When you can't go over an obstacle, you learn to go around it." But not everything went smoothly. During the installation of power systems on the third ship, a quantum surge nearly killed 2 human engineers. The incident sparked heated debate among the alien leadership. "We cannot risk their lives," one of the alien council members argued, their skin dark with distress. "They do not understand the forces they are dealing with." "We understand enough," Sarah countered. "We understand that without these modifications, your people will die." The engineers knew the risks. They chose to continue. Zorax studied her with shifting patterns of gold and silver. "Why? Why do your people risk so much for strangers?" Sarah thought about humanity's long history of both conflict and cooperation. "Because we know what it's like to face extinction. Our history is full of moments where we survived only because someone chose to help despite the danger. It's what makes us human." The work continued around the clock. Human ships arrived with more materials, more volunteers, more determination to complete what many were calling impossible. The alien vessels, once marvels of quantum engineering, were first speaker Zorax materialized beside them, their skin patterns chaotic with stress. "The quantum cascade is spreading faster than predicted. We're losing containment on the outer sections of Ship 15. Sarah's mind raced through options. They couldn't modify both remaining ships in time. The math was irrefutable. But perhaps they didn't have to. "What's the maximum capacity of the modified vessels?" she asked suddenly. Lieutenant Patel consulted his data. "With emergency protocols, we could squeeze another 15,000 aboard. But that still leaves 5,000 people." "The Endeavour," Sarah interrupted. "And every other human ship in the system. How many could we take?" The room fell silent as understanding dawned. Marcus straightened, already calculating. "If we strip everything non-essential, run life support at maximum, maybe 3,000. "Do it," Sarah ordered. "Send the call to every ship in range. We're evacuating them to human vessels." The next hours were organized chaos. Human ships of every size and description converged on the failing alien vessels. Mining craft, research vessels, Even private ships responded to the emergency broadcast, each one ready to take on passengers, regulations, and comfort be damned. Inside Ship 15, Sarah led one of the evacuation teams personally. The corridors were dark, lit only by emergency strips and the bioluminescent patterns of frightened aliens. Entire sections of the ship were now off-limits, consumed by quantum decay. "This way," she called out, guiding a group of alien civilians toward the emergency airlocks where human shuttles waited. Among them was an elderly alien, their skin almost transparent with fear, supported by what appeared to be their grandchild. The ship groaned, a sound that needed no translation. They were running out of time. On the Endeavor's bridge, Captain Elena Rivera coordinated the massive evacuation effort. "We need more space," she muttered, then made a decision that would later become legendary. "Jettison everything. I mean everything. If it's not keeping us alive or flying, throw it out." Across the human fleet, cargo bays were emptied, personal quarters stripped, non-essential systems shut down. Every cubic meter was converted to refugee space. Equipment worth billions was vented to space to make room for alien lives. In the midst of the evacuation, an alien child became separated from their family. Sarah found them hiding in a maintenance shaft, their skin pale with terror. Without hesitation, she scooped them up and carried them to safety, her suit's external speakers humming a gentle lullaby her own mother had once sung. The child's skin gradually shifted from fear-pale to a softer, trusting hue. By the time they were reunited with their parents aboard a human mining vessel, their patterns had synchronized with their family's relief-bright colors. With 6 hours remaining, Ship 14 was evacuated, but 15 was deteriorating faster than anyone had predicted. The quantum cascade had reached critical levels. "We have to go," Marcus shouted over the comlink. "The whole ship's about to collapse." Sarah checked her manifest. 200 more. "We just need 200 more out." The final evacuation became a race against physics itself. Human shuttles darted in and out of failing airlocks, each trip more dangerous than the last. Engineers stayed behind to manually hold doors open as quantum systems failed around them. Every second counted. Finally, impossibly, the last shuttle cleared the dying ship. Behind it, Ship 15 began to break apart, its quantum core releasing a spectacular aurora of failing fields and dissolved reality. Aboard the Endeavor, now packed with 3 times its intended occupancy, Sarah watched the final counts come in. Through a combination of human ingenuity, stubbornness, and sheer determination, they had saved every single refugee. Zorax approached her, their skin rippling with complex emotions. "Your people," they said softly, "they gave up everything. Their ships, their possessions, their comfort. Why?" Sarah thought about the endless cargo pods floating in space, the stripped ships, the exhausted faces of human crews sleeping in corridors so aliens could have their quarters. "Because things can be replaced," she answered simply. "Lives can't." The first speaker's patterns shifted to a deep, respectful gold. "We came to your system believing ourselves superior, masters of quantum science and reality itself. But you have taught us something far more valuable than any technology." "Oh." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" "That true advancement isn't measured by scientific achievement, but by the capacity for compassion. Your people may not manipulate quantum fields, but you understand something far more fundamental: the value of life itself." As the combined fleet of human and modified alien ships prepared to depart for the sanctuary worlds, Sarah reflected on how first contact had turned out so differently than anyone had imagined. Instead of technological exchange or diplomatic relations, humanity had proven itself through simple, determined compassion. Sometimes, she realized, the most advanced civilization isn't the one with the most sophisticated technology, but the one that remembers its fundamental values even in the face of impossible odds. The stars beckoned, and this time, humans and aliens would face them together. Legacy of kindness. 6 months after the Great Evacuation, Saturn Outpost 7 had changed beyond recognition. Where once stood a simple monitoring station, now rose an extraordinary hybrid of human and alien architecture, the first joint embassy between Earth and the Axiom Confederation. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at its central viewport, watching the rings of Saturn shimmer beyond. Beside her, first speaker Zorax's skin rippled with patterns that she had learned to recognize as contentment. "The sanctuary worlds are flourishing," Zorax reported, their translation device now perfectly tuned to human speech patterns. "Our people have begun rebuilding, using what we learned from your engineers. Simpler technologies, yes, but more resilient. More adaptable." Sarah smiled, remembering Marcus's steam engine solutions that had saved so many lives. The engineer himself was now leading a joint technological exchange program, teaching human ingenuity while learning the fundamentals of quantum science. "And the quantum plague?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. Contained, Zorax's patterns shifted to confident blues and silvers. "Once we understood that sometimes stepping backward is the key to moving forward, the solution became clear. Your people's grasp of basic physics helped us see what we had overlooked in our quantum complexity." The irony wasn't lost on either of them. The very primitive understanding of physics that humans possessed had provided the key to fighting a quantum weapon. Sometimes, the oldest foundations were the strongest. In the station's research wing, human and alien scientists worked side by side, each bringing their unique perspectives to shared challenges. The aliens' quantum expertise combined with human practical innovation had already yielded remarkable breakthroughs in medicine, energy production, and space travel. But the most profound changes weren't technological at all. "Tell me," Zorax said suddenly, their patterns shifting to curious goals, "why did your Lieutenant Patel name his newborn daughter after our word for starlight?" Sarah watched a group of alien children playing with human kids in the station's recreation area, their skin patterns mimicking human smiles and laughter. "For the same reason your people have started using human gestures and expressions, we've changed each other, Zorax. And that's a good thing." The rescue had sparked something neither species had expected, a deep, genuine friendship born of crisis and compassion. Human determination and resourcefulness had earned the respect of a civilization that once considered them barely worthy of notice. In turn, the aliens' humility in accepting help had taught humanity that true advancement sometimes meant knowing when to step back. In the bustling corridors of the embassy, Sarah passed the memorial wall, a crystalline display showing images from the evacuation. There was Marcus, jury-rigging power systems with alien engineers, Captain Rivera, coordinating the massive refugee operation, countless unnamed heroes who had given up everything to save strangers from the stars. But her favorite image showed something simpler, the alien child she had carried to safety, now a student in the embassy's first mixed-species education program, teaching human children how to read color patterns while learning Earth languages in return. "We've received another petition," Zorax mentioned, following her gaze. 3 more human colonies requesting alien cultural advisors, and twice as many of our systems asking for human engineering consultants. Sarah nodded, unsurprised. What had begun as an emergency response had evolved into a deep cultural exchange. Humans were learning to see beyond their traditional perspectives, while the aliens were rediscovering the value of simplicity and adaptability. "The quantum plague taught us the danger of relying too heavily on advanced technology," Zorax continued, their patterns thoughtful. "But you humans taught us something far more valuable, that true advancement isn't just about moving forward. It's about remembering where you came from, and reaching back to help others along the way." In the distance, a new ship emerged from Saturn's shadow, the UNSS Harmony, first of its class. Its hull gleamed with the crystalline patterns of alien technology, while its core ran on the reliable human systems that had proven so crucial during the rescue. Like the alliance it represented, it was a perfect blend of both civilization's strengths. "You know what the best part is," Sarah said, watching the ship's graceful approach. We're just getting started. Zorax's patterns shifted to a deep, rich gold, the color of profound agreement. Indeed, our scholars once believed that technological superiority was the measure of civilization. Now we understand that the greatest technology of all is the capacity for kindness. As they stood together, human and alien, watching the future unfold before them, Sarah thought about how first contact had turned out so differently than anyone had imagined. Instead of fear or conquest, their civilizations had been united by something far more powerful, the simple choice to help those in need. It was a legacy that would echo across the stars for generations to come, reminding both species that sometimes the most advanced thing a civilization can do is remember its most basic values: compassion, courage, and the unwavering determination to help others, no matter the cost. The stars beckoned, brighter than ever, and this time they would explore them together, not as advanced and primitive, not as savior and saved, but as equals united by the strongest force in any universe: the power of simple human kindness.